It just flashed. Can somebody give me a thumbs up or a hello so I know that I'm even on? It just flashed like can't connect or something like that. There's hey Paula. Hey, will you give me a thumbs up or something so I know that? Okay, there we go. Looks like we're back on. Did one of those weird reconnect. Something's wrong with the like there's the camera's different today, and I'm not sure why. I mean, I like it because it makes my face look thinner, but it's a little odd, a little distorted. Anyway, Walt, hello, Paula, hello. Glad to see everybody. Good morning. It is, what is it, April 23rd? It's a Thursday, I know that. And I think it's day 42 of this crazy quarantine. It's the sun is shining right now as I look outside, which is good because these last couple of days of unexpected like snow and cold about did me in. So we're looking a little better here over these next few days. Allergies are popping, which is going to be interesting. I was thinking about that yesterday. Like I can really feel like that itchiness in the front of my nose and itchy eyes. Good morning, Richard. Hey, Marcus. And allergies are going to be interesting this season because if I'm in the grocery store getting takeout or whatever and sneezing and, coughing, doing my normal throat clear from allergies. Hey, Chuck. It's going to be interesting to see the reactions to the dirty looks I get, but allergies I don't think are going to stop for fear of coronavirus confusion. All right, so we are going to go back to what we started yesterday and compare it to a miracle that follows through. And it's just interesting these scriptures because I spent too much time yesterday. Really, it was like 25 minutes. And what I've learned with this thing is I kind of have after 21 years now of sermons that are all about 25 minutes in length, I have this this timer in my head. Hey, April. I guess I have like a timer in my head that if it's not near 20 minutes, I feel like it's not long enough. But when it's 25 minutes, I know it's time to land the plane, and I'm not looking at the clock or anything. It just, so anyway, I probably need to go a little bit shorter for these things. So sorry for keeping you a little longer than of course, I guess you can just turn away. So, what do we got? Buenos dias. Yeah, Chuck practicing his Spanish as he dreams now of going back to Costa Rica for Love Pure. All of you guys watching, if you haven't checked out lovepure.org and what the Badleys are up to, pretty neat stuff. All right, so anyway, my point was I spent like 25 minutes on this one miracle yesterday, and you could just, these things are inexhaustible. They're just, you can turn them and twist them so many different ways to look at them, and it just is so, hi Gavin, good to see you, buddy. I know I'm one of your favorite people, so good to see you. I'm glad he's watching and says hello. All right, so back to the Gospel of Mark. We're looking at Jesus in action. And Mark encourages us when we look at Jesus, what do we see? We're getting our view of God from Jesus because he's, as Mark says, Son of God, Son of Man, meaning the human one, the divine human one, the Messiah, all language that Mark uses to say, hey, this is what it looks like for God to interact with people. So, here we go. I'm going to read this again. Context is, a large crowd is following Jesus because he's about to heal somebody's kid. Okay? So then this happens. A great crowd followed him, thronged about him, and there was a woman who had had a discharge of blood for 12 years and who had suffered much under many physicians. Keep that number 12 in mind. Morning, Laura. Hey, Trish. So this woman had suffered for 12 years. She had suffered much under many physicians and had spent all she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. Now, this is where we see the human side of these gospel writers, because Mark, now this story of this lady is in 3 of the 4 gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Those are also called the synoptic gospels. If Is there a problem hearing me? Anybody else? Before I go on, can somebody respond to Bianca? Is my volume okay? Or I think my mic gain is. Oh, you know what? See, okay. How about now? Any better now? Okay. It might be my son didn't like where I had my gain set, and he was griping about it yesterday, and I bet he used my microphone and turned it down. So, okay, looks like everybody else is okay. Anyway, yeah, so the personality of the Gospels. Morning, Shannon. Personality of the Gospel writers. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, also called the Synoptic Gospels, they all record the story of this woman. Mark pays close attention to the fact that she suffered under the doctors. They took all her money, and she was actually worse off. Luke, when he tells his story, he says the doctors were unable to heal her, and stops there. Why do you think that is? Probably because Luke is a doctor. So, of course, Luke's not going to say, yeah, the doctors took all her money and they made things worse. For Luke, they just were unable to heal her. But for the other Gospels, so I just, in my Bible nerd sense, I think that's kind of funny that Luke tells the story a little bit different. Morning, Marcy. Hi, Jackie. Without the emphasis on the ineptitude of the doctors. Anyway, okay, so little bit of Bible humor for you. You can tell that story at your next social gathering when we're through this quarantine. All right. Anyway, physicians couldn't heal her. She's getting worse. She had heard the reports about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if I touch even his garments, I will be made well. Whole other thing. Why did she think that? In the other Gospels, it specifies the fringe of his garment, which there were tassels on the edge of their garments, also called, it was called a tzitzit, or they were called your wings, because when you'd spread out and cover up for prayer, they were called prayer wings. And there's this story, there's this line in Malachi that talks about the Son of Righteousness rising, which many felt was a reference to the coming Messiah. And it says there's healing in his wings. Now, those were also called your wings, your prayer wings, and the fringes, and there's wordplay there. And so it could be that she believed that when the Messiah comes, there would be healing in his wings, in the tassels of his wings. And so that's why she went there. And anyway, that's just a possibility, yet another angle to look at these stories, which again just fascinates me about the whole thing. And immediately the flow of blood dried up. She felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Jesus perceiving in himself that power had gone out from him, immediately turned about in the crowd, again being pressed up on all sides, and said, who touched my garments? Disciples are like, there's a huge crowd around you. What do you mean, who touched you? Everybody's bumping into you. And he looked around to see who had done. Then there are other Gospels talk about, he said, I felt the power flow through me. Good morning, Joyce. Hi, Tim. The woman throws herself before Jesus. She's trembling. She says, it was me. She tells him what happens. And he said, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Be healed of your disease. So he gives his blessing. Now, the thing that I really want you to pick up on here for all of us, one of the great mysteries of faith. In this miracle, it's not initiated by Jesus. Somehow, Jesus becomes this bucket of power that she has the ability to come and get because of her faith. So it's almost presented, and I don't want you to over analyze this and quote me whatever. It's almost like the woman heals herself by going to Jesus in faith. So he doesn't initiate it, And if you read the clearest reading of the story is he had no prior knowledge or intent. She went to him, touched him, power flowed out of him. He felt that and responded to it. So her faith activated power that was available to her from God through Jesus, apart from Jesus even being a willing participant. Now, I mean, he goes and shows that he was a willing participant. He blesses her and commends her faith. But in that, like, I don't even know what to do with that, honestly. I'm just pointing out the peculiarity of this miracle, in that it seems like at this point, Jesus just is this bucket of power that she can draw out of by her faith, that she can make a withdrawal from her faith. Now, let's look at this story. In chapter 6. We'll go back to 12 and daughter in a minute, unless I forget. He went away from there, came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. And on the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue. And many who heard him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? What is the wisdom given him? How are such mighty works done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. And Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor, except in his hometown, and among his relatives, and in his own household." And he could do no mighty works there, except lay his hands on a few people who were sick and heal them. And he marveled at their disbelief. So, we see this one miracle where this woman who was completely untouchable because of her sickness, 12 years she's been untouchable because you're unclean with any kind of a blood thing going, any kind of body discharge. And then, hey Lori, and she has faith to draw, apart from even Jesus' knowledge on his power. Then you get to the next, it's not the next story, but within the next couple paragraphs, an entire people group where it says, let me look at the wording here, and he could do no mighty work there. Almost, if you take it at its clearest, most obvious reading, that his power was blocked. Now, I think, I think it's pretty obvious that he could have, prayed and asked and whatever, and summoned up enough power to do something there. But somehow their lack of faith was, at least at face value or on the first level, limited his power flow to that group of people. So I think that you have to look at what Mark calls out here, in that here's a woman who would have been on the lowest level of the social totem pole and the religious totem pole of Jesus' day and time. Good morning, Karen. Being a woman, being a sick woman, the kind of sickness where she was unclean, somehow her faith is able to grab power from God. Meanwhile, this other group of people who had watched Jesus grow up, their faith was to the level where Jesus couldn't even extend, or at least if we're looking, Mark seems to be playing at the fact that their faith, by its very nature, their lack of faith, limited Jesus' activity in their life. So that's just a great mystery to me, that there's so much of a human element in this. It's as if Mark's saying, look at the power you have as a human being. Look at what your faith, or lack thereof, can or can't do. Now, I don't know how it all works. I don't know why some people seem to be able to pray in faith and get their miracle, and some people pray in faith and don't. And I think it's tough. It's very tough to hear about somebody talk about, I just knew God would do it, and he did. Meanwhile, there are things that you pray about and you just knew God would do it, and he didn't. At the same time, you look at the way these two miracles, there is inherent power in faith. And so we just kind of got to let that marinate and do what it's going to do in our hearts. But there is power in faith, and there is anti-power in doubt. And then there's other things in these miracles that, like for instance, did you notice the context here? And these are things I don't even know what to do with, but there's a daughter, the guy's name is Jairus, and in Luke 5, Jesus is on his way to heal Jairus' daughter when he encounters this woman. Now the daughter is 12 years old, so there's a 12-year-old daughter that Jesus ends up raising from the dead, and in the midst of that, there's this lady who has been sick for 12 years, who he calls daughter. So 12-year-old daughter, and then right next story, Jesus is about to send out 12. So all of a sudden, Mark gets fixated on the number 12. And the Bible, the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles, 12 disciples. In Revelations 21, there's 12 all over the New Jerusalem, which is heaven come to earth. 12 gates, 12 angels, 12 foundations. All of a sudden, Mark goes off on this number 12. And I don't know why. I haven't read anything that other than 12 is the number of authority and perfection. Why, I don't know. But that's what when it comes to these gospel stories. Hey Becky, they're so deep. Here we are 2,000 years later, and they're still speaking to us, and have such power to pop up all over the place, pop up and pop off all over the place in our life, in all these different situations. They're inexhaustible, and they were written by minds and hearts thousands of years ago. It keeps me going. It keeps me searching. It keeps me studying and reading and exploring and teaching, and I found such great value in them. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Is just, but what I really want you to hone in on here is look at the power of believing. The power of just saying, I'm believing anyway. And reaching out to Jesus and doing what it takes to get to him and to take our problems to him and our fears to him, and in faith waiting for him to respond. So let that marinate, and I will see you on Tuesday, this Sunday, at 11 a.m. I'll do a watch party here at my Facebook page, or you can go to Polaris Christian Church Facebook page for the broadcast, or PolarisChristian.com for the YouTube broadcast. I'm going to be talking about where is God in the coronavirus? Did God cause the coronavirus? My thoughts on that. And where has he been this whole time? So that's this Sunday for the Polaris Christian Church digital virtual service. Feel free to join in there. And I will see you regardless at 9 a.m. next week.